What's up, my fellow harmonic traders? Welcome back to Track the Harmonic, your go-to destination for all things harmonic technical analysis. I'm your host, Lord MC. In today's video, we got a jam-packed episode ahead as we explore the potential market moves for the upcoming week based on some key economic indicators. Before we get into the harmonic patterns, I quickly wanted to cover some economic jargon that's set to make waves this week, so we'll be keeping a close eye on three crucial data points in PMI, JOLTS jobs, and the unemployment rate. So first up this week, we do have PMI, which stands for the Purchasing Managers Index. This provides us with a pulse on the manufacturing and service sectors. It's a vital economic indicator that could offer insights into business conditions and potential market trends. Next up, we do have JOLTS jobs, which is short for Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. So this data point gives us a behind-the-scenes look at the job market, which could help us gauge employment dynamics and anticipate potential shifts in the economic landscape. This week, we also do have the unemployment rate. So this is a key metric reflecting the percentage of the labor force without unemployment. So understanding this data is crucial for predicting broader economic trends, and it's going to be very important to see what that data shows. Lastly, this week we do have Federal Chair Jerome Powell testifying in Congress on Wednesday and Thursday, so it's going to be very important to hear what he has to say, as he could definitely shift market conditions. So before we get into the harmonic patterns here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more insightful content so you never miss a future video. Having said that, I also want to preface by saying I am not a financial advisor. None of the things I say in my videos or anywhere else is ever financial advice, so question everything, do your own research, and come out with your own conclusions. So having said that, let's jump right into the charts. Jumping over to the SPY here. So the SPY, very crazy day on Friday, obviously closed at a new all-time high at 512.85. So what can we expect harmonically here going forward for the SPY? We obviously have this bear shark pattern on the daily, which is overextended above hop, so something else could be happening on the more micro time frames. So I'm going to quickly jump over again to the 2-day and 3-day and look over as well as the weekly. We did have increase in volume towards Thursday from Wednesday all the way to Friday, so it looks like the volume is picking up once again. I want to bring your guys' attention to the 3-day bat pattern here, where we're clearly above hop. As I bring out my other indicators here, we do see that the RSI is completely overbought, and the HSI is indicating that more upside could be incoming, as well as the AMP RSI kind of in these overbought conditions here. If we go over to the weekly, we do have an increase in volume. Obviously the weekly RSI is also overextended, so could there be more continuation, and if so, what are those levels? So I do have, as I bring on my drawings, I know there's a lot here to uncover here. The next level I'm looking at here is 512.85. Why that level? That level here is taking a fib retracement from the previous all-time highs here to the 52-week lows. That is at 515.85. What would happen if you break that level? You could also take this fib retracement here from the previous all-time high to the lows here from October. That's where I got 515.85, and you have the 1618 at 561.48. You could also draw a fib extension here from the 52-week lows back up to the swing high and to the most recent swing lows. You have some confluence there at 520 and the 1272 at 550. You could also take another fib retracement here from the previous swing high to swing low, and that is calling at the 2618 here. Give me 1 second. 2618 at 540. So there seems to be some confluence here above 515, 520 to that 540, 550 range, should there be more upside here for the SPY. If we go back to the 3-day here, if there is resistance at that 515.85, I would expect to have some resistance and come back down to potentially 498 down the line. This is obviously on the 3-day chart, so that could take some time to come back down to maybe hop there at 498.57 and potentially fill that gap. Right now it's still unclear of whether the SPY is going to find some resistance here, or we're just going to continue pushing higher here. As you could tell, that 21 EMA so far on the daily has been support here. So we did push up here last week, came back up, and now created a higher high. So we'll see if there's going to be some retracing here back down to maybe the 21 EMA down the line, and that is calling it at $500 and change. So on the weekly, we also, like I said, we did have increase in volume here, and this is now a hammer candle close on the weekly on an uptrend, which could indicate that there's more potential upside here judging by the volume. So other than that, I really don't have anything else here for the SPY. If we turn on the reversal sequence indicator here, we do have potential 9 candles here signifying that a reversal is incoming, but as you could tell, what is throwing that off now is that engulfing candle on the 3-day, so with higher volume. So that could suggest more upside is incoming. So the reversal is not clear yet. So we have to wait for confirmation if there is going to be a reversal. In my opinion, there is none yet. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye here on the SPY. Jumping over to the triple Qs here. So the triple Qs, just like the SPY, had an increase in volume from Thursday to Friday, where on Friday it managed to close above 445.61, which did close above a weekly harmonic pattern above 445. So what can we expect here moving forward with the triple Qs? Obviously, I talked about the volume increase, so there could be more potential upside first before we do have resistance. We always want to wait for confirmation of that reversal, and right now it doesn't look like it's getting it. Right now we also have the MACD flipping green as well, the HSI midline way above, so you can see maybe a continuation, and the RSI is still below 70 on the RSI. So if we go over to the weekly really quick, I just wanted to share the harmonic bear shark pattern where you did hit hop above 445.47. So we did get our first candle close above that target. So what can we expect here? If there's no resistance, the 3-day and the 2-day have the same harmonic pattern, which is calling for a higher high at hop at 450.72. So why that level? There seems to be some confluence there. If you take the fib retracement from the previous all-time high here to the 52-week lows, the 127% retracement is exactly at 450.72. Above that, then you have the 1618 at 504.16. So I do think that there might be a potential sign of resistance here at 450.72. Obviously, you want to wait for confirmation until that happens. On the weekly, if we jump over here real quick, we do have some matching volume, not so much like the SPY was an increase in volume. So right now, we'll see if there's going to be more continuation at that 450.72. If there is, I would be looking to go back to hop at 445.47, losing that level. You can come back down to 424.12, and then the more the level of support here at 408.71. Should you lose that, then maybe you start a reversal to start this potential type 1 reaction off the shark pattern to target 1. If that's going to happen, it's going to be on the weekly, which could take some time for that to fulfill. So definitely keep an eye out on the triple Qs. Jumping over to the Dow Jones here. So the Dow Jones on Friday closed at 391.31 cents here with increase in volume. So what can we expect here? The Dow Jones here did respect that HSI midline, it did bounce off of it. So if it does go to anywhere where that overbought condition zone is at, then we could potentially see this go even higher. So as I bring out my resistance lines here, the next level I do have is 392.04. That is taking a fib retracement from the previous all-time high to the 52-week lows. And right now you can see that twice already it found resistance at 392.04. So Friday's close, it's on increasing volume. We'll see if there's more continuation. Above this level, I do have the next target being obviously that psychological level first at 400. Above that, then the next fib retracement from taking a fib extension from the swing lows here, the 252-week lows here to the most recent swing high and back down to the swing lows is calling for 412.35. Above that, then you go and see 420 more macro. If I go over to the weekly here, you can see we did generate an HSI dot here off of this what looks to be a dragonfly doji here. So if this is going to be a sign of a reversal candle, we have to wait for confirmation to pick up. So next week we do want to see if it is going to come down, we want to see high volume to the sell side to indicate that the reversal is incoming. So right now it's still a bit of indecision. You could argue that this was all this push down that the Dow had this last week was absorbed and it managed to close slightly higher than the previous week. So it's still no confirmation yet. I don't have any harmonic pattern here except for on the 2-day where you are overextended hop. So if we do find resistance again at that 392.04, you can come back to maybe test hop here at 381. There is a gap fill above that level at 386, so that's obviously not too far away. That's a $5 move, but we'll see if there's an indication of a potential reversal on the Dow Jones. Right now there is a clear divergence, a bearish divergence on the 2-day here. I'm pretty sure you can find it on the 3-day as well. So there is something there that potential reversal is incoming, but like always, you always want to wait for confirmation. So definitely keep a close eye on the Dow Jones. Jumping over to IWM here. So IWM on Friday went as high as 206.33 before closing the day at 205.89. So what can we expect here harmonically for IWM? IWM does have a bearish crab pattern as well as a bearish dragon pattern, which on the dragon pattern seems to have not been playing out that type 1 reaction and is instead going to that type 2 return to OPR. And as you can see, the crab pattern did finished that type 1 reaction to target 1 at 186.70 and is now starting its type 2 return to potentially hop, which is calling for 211.69, very close to the target there for the Dragon OPR as well. Also on Friday, it did decrease in volume compared to Thursday, but it did manage to close above at 205.89. I do have this level here as a level of resistance on IWM. So if you do come down here and do find some resistance, I would expect you to come down to 203.44, then 201.15. Failing this, and maybe you come down to the 50 EMA at 196.14, where it has found support. These last few times it did come down to test it. Obviously losing that level, the 50 EMA, you can come back down all the way down to 186.70, right where the 200 EMA and SMA are at, which could also potentially complete that type 1 reaction off of the dragon pattern at 184.29. If we jump over to the weekly here, the weekly is showing an increase in volume. So right now this is the first time it's actually tested this level here at 205.89, which is higher than this previous high here on December the 26th, was when it's as high as 205.49. So we have not tested these levels yet since April of 2022. So this is actually a potential breakout here if you do get increase in volume. Right now the HSI did cross the midline, and if it does go to these overbought conditions, you can maybe see attempt at that 211, 212 here, where point C is off the white swan. If we take a fib retracement tool from the previous all-time highs to the lows here, most recent lows, the next level is calling 212.94 at the 618. So obviously that would be shifting momentum and maybe breaking down the downtrend, as you will create potential higher highs and higher lows. So definitely keep an eye out on IWM here. Should it finally break out here, you can maybe see a quick test of 212.94, and I do have a resistance line here around 220. So definitely keep an eye out on IWM. Jumping over to XLF here, the financial sector. So what can we expect here for XLF? On Friday it closed at 40.29, and it is hovering above hop here, above 39.93 from the bearish butterfly pattern. So we do have a bit of volume increasing here on XLF. Part of that reason for the volume increasing is because you did have a situation there with NYCB, one of the regional banks, coming down again. So you did have KRE also come down, reacted more negatively there for that ETF. So if the banks are coming down here, I do want to bring you guys attention with the reversal sequence indicator is calling here that 9 candle setup here, and you do have an HSI dot. Right now the volume is starting to increase, so if this is a sign of a reversal, we want to see something more of a candle here. You could argue this is a hanging man here, but it's still hovering above hop. I want to see this lose hop. If this is going to be a clear sign of a reversal, I do want this to lose hop at 39.93, and then maybe you can come down to test the 21 EMA at 39.58 and then XA at 38.92. The reason why you have to respect the 21 EMA, because so far that's the level it has found support above. The last time before February the 13th, it did come down, but it managed to reclaim back above the 21 and created higher highs. So if there is more upside for XLF here, the next level I'd be looking at would be 41.70, which is the previous all-time high. If we go over here to the 3-day, you could also start seeing that there's a 9 candle setup phase here, indicating that maybe a reversal is incoming from the last candle close here. That was an indecision doji candle, and then you had an inverted hammer candle on the uptrend. So that could mean continuation still. And as you can see, the Gartley pattern here, this bearish Gartley pattern, is calling for hop at 41.93, kind of close to that 41.70, which was the previous all-time high. Then if we go over to the weekly, that is an indecision candle. We do have a butterfly, bearish butterfly. We're above hop. So the next level you'd be looking at is 41.70. Above that, they can get pretty bullish fast to $45. That would be the 127% retracement from the previous high to the 52-week low. So definitely keep an eye out on XLF. Jumping over to XLE here, the energy sector. So the energy sector, on my last video, I did mention that there was a potential breakout here to the upside here from the bullish Gartley. And on Friday, you did gap up where you close at 87.14. So what can we expect harmonically to the upside here for XLE? So as you could tell here, the HSI midline did cross that midline. So what can we expect if it reaches these overbought zones here? That's the next level that I'd be looking at, would be a target 2 at 88.86, and then maybe you can see higher there around $90 and change, where there is a confluence target there from the weekly harmonic, which I will jump over in a little bit. But I also want to bring your attention that there's a potential golden cross approaching here that could cross on Monday to Tuesday on the EMAs. Obviously, when you want to get a golden cross, you want to definitely have the price action be above these EMAs to show that there is some bullishness going on there, because if the price is below the 200 EMA and the 50 EMA, that could potentially be a trap. So the volume is starting to increase here. So if we go over to the weekly to see this bearish crab pattern, you can see that you also got a 921 crossover, and you had volume increase this week, and the MACD flip green. The HSI is crossed the midline, and it is probably potentially approaching these overbought conditions, which could be anywhere at XA at 90.56, or maybe even the high here at 93.69. So that would complete the reversal. So definitely keep an eye here on XLE to see if there's going to be more continuation to the upside, or we find some resistance here. So keep an eye out on XLE. Jumping over to Apple here. So Apple finally lost the 200 EMA here on Friday, where it closed at 179.66, and it's the first time you closed below the 200 EMA since all the way back here in October. So what can we expect here harmonically for Apple? On the daily, you did generate this doji candle, and you did generate an HSI dot, which could indicate that a reversal is incoming. If not, the next level you have off of the bearish shark pattern is target 2 to complete this reaction at 169.54. Something I do want to bring you guys attention to is the high volume selling that happened on Thursday, and this is kind of important to see if this is going to come back for a retest. Obviously, Monday would be the retest to see if we can claim the 200 EMA. Obviously, if it fails with high volume, then maybe you could see a lower low. So it did create a lower low. It could also come back up for a lower high and then reject again. If we go over to the weekly does have a bearish dragon pattern, where a potential 921 crossover could indicate more downside is coming. One thing I do want to bring attention to you guys as well is that 50 EMA and SMA has found support here. So the last time was those October lows, and what ended up happening, Apple did go back up to a 20% run here. So it's exactly at that 50 EMA where it did wick below but managed to close above. So if there was an opportunity here for the bulls to buy the dip like it did back in October, then this is where I would think the bulls would step up here to buy the dip and continue maybe on a reversal back up for Apple. Should you fail this, and you always want to wait for confirmation, right now you could say, well, the volume did increase, so there's your confirmation. Well, technically, yes, it did increase. You still did not close below the 50 EMA here. So first you would need a close below the 50 EMA, and then after you still would need a retest to see if that was supported or not. So right now you don't have the close below the 50 EMA, and you still don't have the retest. So if bulls do step up here and buy this dip here, the next level you would be looking at to break above would be 185, and then maybe you could see 194 off of the weekly. If we go over to the daily, you would need to come back to the 200 EMA, which is at 180, target 1 at 182, and then you have a bunch of chop here all the way back to terminal. In my opinion, reclaiming terminal is where you can potentially see Apple come back to maybe those $200 range again. So, but below 194 here, you're a little bit bearish here on Apple, so definitely wait out for Apple to have more confirmation here, because this could be a giant trap on the bears, thinking that this is going to potentially make lower lows and probably even test October lows. So definitely keep an eye out on Apple. Jumping over to Microsoft here. So Microsoft on the daily does have this ABCD pattern here where hop is at 419.35. So you did generate an HSI dot on Friday off of decrease in volume. So if it does go to these overbought conditions, you would expect this to maybe go up to hop there or above hop at 419.35. But if I bring your attention to these two candles here where it did find some resistance, if you do find some resistance again, you would look to see if it goes back down to ABCD here at 406.71. Obviously the 21 EMA has also found support, as well as the 50. So if you do lose a 21 EMA right at this 406.71 target, the next level would be 395, and then maybe you complete the type 1 reaction to 200 EMA at 354.49. The volume did decrease from Thursday to Friday, but if we go over to the weekly here, the weekly is on a shooting star off of increase in volume. So if this continues pushing towards that 419.35, the next level I do have above that would be 433.87. So that would be the 127% retracement of the previous all-time high of the 52-week low. So definitely keep an eye out on Microsoft. Jumping over to Amazon here. So Amazon on Friday closed at 178.22, which did create a new 52-week high and created a higher high. So what can we expect here for Amazon? Should you continue going to the upside. The next level I would be looking at here macro-wise would be to test just the previous all-time high, which is at 188.65. You can clearly tell that it bounced off the midline, and it can go to that overbought zone here within the HSI. Right now you do have a bearish divergence, but the MACD also shift momentum here to the green side, meaning momentum is shifting back up. So if it does come back up and the RSI comes all the way back up to that mid 74s, and maybe that bearish divergence gets invalidated. So if you're going to play the bearish divergence here, you definitely always have to wait for confirmation. Maybe you get a reversal candle to the sell side with high volume, which could potentially mean that the reversal is incoming, but right now still unclear. If we jump over to the weekly, you do have this bearish bat pattern way above hop, so obviously it matched the volume from the last week, so it's definitely not increasing or decreasing. It's just kind of average. So if there is more upside, I'm looking at that 188.65 next level for Amazon here. To the downside, if you're not able to come back up and you do find some resistance here, the next level would be the 90 EMA at 174, and then maybe the 21 EMA here at 169, 170, $170. Should you lose that level, then you have a gap all the way down to 161, right where the 50 AMA and SMA are at. So losing that level, then maybe you see the type 1 reaction at 153.25. But as you could tell, the 50 EMA has also found support here for Amazon, so definitely keep an eye out on Amazon. Jumping over to Tesla here, so Tesla on Friday closed at 202.64. It did get bullish here on Thursday where it tried to close the gap. There's still a gap there at around 207, 206 and change. So the next level I'd be looking here for this bullish Gartley here to complete the type 1 reaction would be 222.48. If you do continue to the upside, the next level I would be looking at would be the gap there, and then the 50 EMA, which is around 207 and change. Above that, then you have the 50 SMA around 212, and then maybe you could see target 1 to complete the type 1 reaction. Above this level, I do have a level at 223.79, which would be resistance here, kind of close with the 200 EMA. If you're going to break out of that level, Tesla's going to have to do with volume to get really bullish. So if it does that, then maybe you see the scalper's dream all the way to target 2 at 251.82 down the line. But I do believe that level here is going to be a key level of resistance, because that level there is where we came down here to test these lows again. As you could tell over here, we came down, and this is where you broke out of here of 223. You came really high as well, and you found support during this area here. And the last time we did break above 223, we go to 258. So I am not bullish here until Tesla breaks maybe even 223. You can get extremely bullish above 258. Maybe you go see those psychological $300 level down the line. But right now we're a little bit far away to get ahead of ourselves for that range. So right now you do have to break above here and that 223 range to definitely get maybe some momentum going for Tesla. On the weekly, if we go over here on the weekly, you do also have this bullish Gartley with increase in volume from last week, so that's good to see. To also see the break above the 200 EMA, and now it's holding. So next week, this coming week, could be a retest of the 200 EMA on the weekly. If you find support here, then maybe you could see that type 1 reaction at 225.61. You did cross the HSI midline on the weekly, so if there's more continuation and that HSI arrow did give us that reversal signal, then maybe we go to that target 1 there at 225.61. If we get rejected here at the 50, the next level I'd be looking at would come down here to 199, call it 200, where the 90 EMA is at. Losing that level, you can come back down to XA at 183.81, and then maybe down to 174 down the line. So definitely keep an eye out on Tesla. Jumping over to Google here, so Google on the daily does have this bearish steep grab where it did test target 2 here at 135.73 before closing the day on Friday at 137.14. The volume did pick up here on the sell side to test that target 2 here. So you did have an increase in volume on Thursday with decrease in volume on Friday. So Google, like Apple, also has almost the same chart, the same setup, creating lower lows and lower highs. You do have a potential 2050 crossover here for Google. So if that strategy, the EMA strategy, does happen to cross, then that could potentially mean that a more downside could be coming here. Obviously, you want to see the price action be below that crossover strategy, which it is, and you want to see the volume pick up to see if that's actually going to be the case. If you do lose target 2 at 135.73, maybe it does find support here on the daily at the 200 EMA SMA, which is around 133 to 132, or excuse me, 131 and change, where Apple also seemed to find support here as well. As you could tell, the last time Google did test the 200 EMA was at the October lows, the same scenario almost like Apple, and it found support and created higher highs down the line. So if this is the case for Google, definitely would like to see the bull step up here and buy the dip there should it come down to that level. If we go over to the weekly here, the weekly does have a bearish shark pattern. You could tell the weekly was bearish with high volume selling, where you did lose OB here at 143.77 and lost a 21 EMA, where you did close below it. So the next level here, where it has tested, Google has tested and come down to, is that 50 EMA, which is roughly around $130.17. I do have a line here at 128.71, where that is a previous harmonic target that has found support here. So if it does manage to lose that level, right where the 50 SMA is at, then maybe you see the type 1 reaction at target 1 at 118.56. I also want to bring your attention to the monthly here for Google. You did generate a shooting star here, and I wanted to bring attention to the HSI dot that's generating potentially here for the month of March for Google. As you could tell, the last time you had an HSI dot was January, and you did come down as well. The only time where you did have an indecision candle was back here in December 20, but for most of the HSI dots have indicated that downside would be coming, a short little retracement. Obviously, it's too early to tell since we just started the month with that HSI dot. That HSI dot could also get invalidated if the price action continues to push higher. So for Google, I would expect here the bulls to step up around the 200 EMA should you lose target 2. So definitely keep an eye out on Google. Jumping over to Meta here. So Meta on the daily closed finally on this week at above 500, which is pretty crazy. Meta just created new all-time highs. It got above the psychological level of 500. You do have a bearish divergence right now on the daily, but the HSI just crossed the middle, and I know we don't have a harmonic pattern here on either of the macro time frames, so it's really hard to see if there's more continuation, but if there is, we could rely on Fibonacci retracement levels and extension levels. So bring on my drawings here. To the upside, the next level I'd be looking at would be $567.41. That is taking the fib retracement from the previous all-time high where you generated this bullish scrap pattern on the weekly to the 52-week lows here back when this was at $83. That 161% retracement is at $567.41. So that would be the next level. So you could also take a fib extension from those 52-week lows back up to the recent swing high here and then back down to the swing low here. So that next level would be 517.51. Above that, then you do have the 127% retracement around 582, which is kind of very close to that target from the previous all-time high to the swing lows. So for Meta here, there's those targets to the upside. To the downside, if there is any indication here, obviously it would come back down to test the 90 EMA around $486. Losing that, then maybe you test the 13 at 479, and then the 21 EMA at 465, where below that you could fill that gap. So right now there's no indication that Meta wants to continue to fill that or come down here and fill that gap. Looks like it wants to break out of here and continue pushing higher here. So definitely keep an eye out on Meta. Jumping over to NVDA here. So NVIDIA continues to make higher highs where you closed on Friday at $822.79. So what can we expect here, harmonically speaking, for NVIDIA? Really can't expect anything because we don't have any harmonic patterns on the macro time frames as this thing continues to push higher and higher, overextending. So what can we expect here just off the indicators? On the harmonic indicators, the HSI did finally find support above the HSI midline, so you can continue pushing higher here. If we go over to the weekly, the volume continues to increase here for NVIDIA as it continues to push even higher. So the only thing we can rely on are Fibonacci retracement numbers and extensions, so I want to bring your attention here. So the next level for continuation for NVIDIA here, you could take the previous all-time highs here back in November to the lows here. Where we're at here, we're currently, the 2618 was at $732.10, where you managed to break above that. As you could tell, you had some resistance there and you continued making higher. So that 3618 is saying $970.44 down the line. You could also take the fib extension from the 52-week lows to the most recent swing highs here back to the swing lows. The next level here would be the 127% retracement at 894.14. Above that, then you do have that $5,000 psychological level here for NVIDIA. So to the downside here, if there's any signs of resistance here at these levels, the next level would be looking at here for NVIDIA. To come down here would be the 9 EMA here at 78, and then maybe losing that level. You do have that gap fill all the way to 685, but it's still too early to see if there is still going to be continuation to the downside here, or I should say a reversal to the downside, because there's no signs just yet. You definitely want to wait for confirmation. The dividend day is on Tuesday the 5th, so we'll see if there has anything, if NVIDIA reacts to the downside off of that, or it continues to make higher highs. So definitely keep an eye out on NVIDIA. Jumping over to Netflix here. So Netflix on the daily for Friday, you did close at $619.34, which is a new 52-week high. So what can we expect here for Netflix? Harmonically speaking, you don't have anything on the daily here. Obviously, this bullish bat pattern completely went above target 2, so that's invalidated as a potential type 2 return. Maybe you could see something more on the macro. As you can tell here, there is a bearish divergence on the daily, so that can get invalidated if the RSI continues to make higher highs, and the higher highs would be around high 80s, where it could invalidate that bearish divergence. To the upside here, the next level I'd be looking at would be the previous all-time highs at $700.99. The HSI did cross the midline, so if it does decide to continue pushing up towards that overbought condition, maybe it can see that level. I do want to bring attention to the 2-day and the 3-day have the same harmonic bearish pattern here. So the bearish bat pattern here is trying to go to hop there at 685.17, kind of close to that previous all-time high. The HSI, it is at almost overbought conditions here, but it did manage to break the RSI divergence, the bearish RSI divergence, where it created a higher high in the RSI. So if it does go, you can maybe see this go to 685.17. If we go over to the weekly, as you could tell, previous ABCD pattern here is at 630, so you might have a closer target at 630.74 before you reach that 685 target. Above 685, then you do have the previous all-time high level at $700.99. Above this level, should it continue pushing, you could just take the Fib retracement from the previous all-time high to the 52-week lows. That next level is calling for $847.10. To the downside here for Netflix, you have to have some confirmation here for a reversal, and if there is, you want to see volume pick up. Maybe you come back down to test the 9 EMA here around 595, and then the 13 EMA is around 590, the 21 EMA at 581. Lose that level, and then maybe you can come down to fill that gap, which is right around 498.96. So definitely keep an eye out on Netflix. Jumping over to Bitcoin here. So my previous video, I did say that Bitcoin would potentially come up here above 60K and test the all-time highs. It's currently at $63,645 here. If we go over to the, I believe it's the 3-day, I did mention that you had this bearish steep crab above hop. You can get bullish, and especially if it broke above 55K here from the black swan, that you could see high 60s, and that's exactly what's going on right now. So the next level to the upside, I would just be looking to see if Bitcoin tests the previous all-time high at 69K, or if it continues to push higher, which would create a new all-time high. If you find some resistance at that previous all-time high, I would expect this to come down, maybe to hop there at 50,100, and then losing that will come down to XA to test the 50 EMA here at 42.8. Below that, then you obviously have the type 1 reaction completion at target 1 at 33K, where the 200 EMA is at. Now I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but if we do see some resistance, I do believe a retracement could be incoming, as this thing is kind of completely overbought here on the weekly. You did manage to have a bearish divergence, but right now the RSI completely invalidated that bearish divergence, and the HSI right now is approaching these overbought condition. As you could tell, the last time this happened, you kind of came down here with short retracement, and then you continue making a higher high. So I would expect something like a retracement back down, maybe in the 50s to 40s, and then continue finding support here, where you found support below the 21 EMA on the daily, on the weekly. You never came down below the 21. You actually wicked down below the 13, but never really tested the 21. So you could have a scenario where you come down maybe the 21 EMA and then make a higher high down the line, and in which case you would create a new all-time high, maybe towards that 100K potentially. So definitely keep an eye on Bitcoin. So that's basically all I have for you guys. I will be streaming on Monday, same time as always. So if you want to catch me streaming, I will be streaming on Twitch. So link to my Twitch in the description box below. So having said that, that's all I have. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody, and peace.